If you love juicy, smoky, and tender brisket that look like this, then you might be in for a surprise. Because today we're cooking a chuck roast and see if it can beat the almighty brisket.
A big thanks to borniak smokers for sponsoring this video.
This is a piece of meat that a while back ago I did an experiment with. I was looking for a beautiful steak. Well, actually the story goes a little bit back. I made shawarma with this beautiful piece of meat, and while I was slicing it up I discovered how beautiful it actually was. So I decided it was time for a deep dive, and I tried to make a steak out of this beautiful piece of meat. That kind of backfired on me because it was way too tough. So I decided to smoke it in the barbecue for a low and slow session, and it turned out freaking amazing. Of course, you guys had some suggestions in the comments and talked about how this is a chuck roll and you can smoke them like a brisket, and that's exactly what we're here for today. Now this is a Dutch version of a chuck roll. It is a beef neck, which means we got the chuck roll plus this extra piece of beef. I'm just going to leave it as is, and we're just going to do that comparison of a chuck roll, Dutch version, and compare that to a brisket. Actually, this is 4 euros the kilogram cheaper. Now this is 6 kilograms, and that means I'm already saving 24 euros on just one piece of meat. But the big question is it as good as brisket, and can we even compare it? Well, there are two things that I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for flavor in the meat. You see, every piece of muscle has its own flavor profile, its own coarseness, fineness in structure, and therefore also its own mouthfeel, and that is very interesting to me. How is this going to turn out? Since it's such a big piece of meat, I'm going to season it with a PITMASTERX seasoning, Texas barbecue seasoning. Now, all of the recipes for the PITMASTERX seasoning are on our website, so you can make this recipe for the seasoning at home, or of course you can buy it in our shop. Definitely go check that out. Links are down below. I'm going to follow that up with a little bit of PITMASTERX beef seasoning. Same story here. The recipe of this is also on our website. So if you don't have access to the seasoning, you can still replicate this. As you can see, the wind's not working with me today. We got a northeastern wind blowing into this barbecue setup that we got here, into the barbecue barn, and it's just brutal. But no excuses not to barbecue. I'm going to be smoking in my borniak smoker, and I'm going to actually take 2 racks, put the beef neck on, or aka the chuck roll, and this is going to go into the smoker. And I'm using the borniak smoker because it's the best controlled environment for an experiment that I have. I'm going to load the hopper up with wood chips, set the temperature to 120 degrees Celsius, switch on smoking, make sure that the top vent's all the way open and the bottom vent is almost all the way open. There we go. Now the borniak will do its job and just let that beautiful chuck roll smoke. So what I'm looking for now is a good amount of bark to build up on the outside. I'm looking for flavor on this beautiful chuck roll. So now we just have to wait. The chuck roll has been on for 7 hours now, and it's almost up to a temperature of 70 degrees Celsius core temperature, which means we're going to take a look at the bark, the exterior of the barbecue. Did it pick up enough smoke flavor? I already switched off the smoke hopper so that we don't have any smoke when we open it up, and we can have a good look at it. So let's check it out. Without further ado, pop-a-doo. Wow. Oh yeah, there she is. That looks really, really good. Now my idea is to now raise up the temperature a little bit, and this differs from the 4-2-10 method, where we have 4 hours of smoking on the brisket, then 2 hours at a high temperature, and then 10 hours of resting. Now if I raise up the temperature a little bit, that's going to give me 2 things. It's going to help me build up a better crusty exterior, and the second thing is that we cook a little faster and that we're eventually going to finish this chuck roll before midnight. I'm going to set it up to 150. The 150 is really going to help with the bark, drying it out a little bit further. Now in this specific barbecue there's not a lot of airflow. It is so insulated that you basically let the air stand still and it warms up, and it's really nice because you get this nice moist environment It's really going to go back on the crust. But then again, you need a little bit more temperature to really build up the crust. So if you're doing this on another barbecue, you might have to change that method a little bit, adapt it to your barbecue. Keep that in mind. Well, we'll be back in a couple hours. It took another 3 hours to get it done. But we're here. Whoa, the bark. Oh, it's insane. It is super, super soft. It definitely nailed the poke test. It's like soft like butter. Now, I'm gonna wrap it up in aluminum foil because it's time for the resting. Remember the 4-2-10 method, where we first smoke it at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, then raise it up to 140, and then we let it rest for 10 hours. Well, that is right now. And since it's late in the evening, I'm going to let it rest until tomorrow. We're going to take a look at it then. But for now, let's get it off. Take a closer look at this thing. Oh, Heat Pro gloves on, of course. Can't resist any heat. Hot cooked food, easy to clean. It is absolutely beautiful. The crust, it is insane. When you give a piece of beef the time to build up a real intense crust, you're going to add flavor to it. There's plenty of juices and moist meat on the inside, but that crust is just going to give you lots and lots of texture. Now, of course, it doesn't make any sense to slice into it now. The resting thing is all about bringing the whole thing together, get it more relaxed and the muscle less tight. Therefore, I'm going to set the borniak smoker now to keep it warm at a temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. Now, why haven't I wrapped it up just now? Because I first want to get a little bit of that heat out. If I would wrap it up now, the outside might be a little hotter than the inside, so all of the heat would go into the roast, overcooking it, and therefore giving me pulled beef instead of, well, brisket-like sliced beef. For me, always the telltale sign is when you have that crust on the outside and you poke it everywhere, and you just see that the outside holds it together while the inside is completely turning soft. At this point, you could add beef tallow to this, but this thing holds so much beef fat already that I think that adding beef tallow at the moment would just be overdoing it. We would end up with too much fat in this roast and it wouldn't turn out as good as it can be as without. All right, there we go. Let's see. This is large aluminum foil, extra large. And still, it looks small for this beautiful piece of chuck roll. All right, I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow when we slice into this thing and we can see how good it actually is. Can't wait. I'm gonna get a good night's sleep and I'm gonna dream about this beautiful chuck roll. Well, good morning. Yeah, let's check this out. Ooh. Yeah, baby. Steaming. That. It's jiggly. It's nice and warm. Can you hear this? Whoa, that is what it sounds like. The question is not, is it good? The question is this better than brisket? Whoa, look at how juicy that is. Oh, that is so good. Wow. You see how the fat that was sitting in between all the meat actually really nicely melted. So we got rid of most of the hard fat. It became juices. This looks absolutely fantastic. Let's get a slice out of this. It's definitely a lot bigger than you would have with a brisket. And that's going to make it fall apart more easily. Still got a little bit of pull. Got a nice bark, nice crust. Oh, let's do a taste test. That is good. Funny thing, this tastes exactly like brisket. I expected the flavors of the chuck roll to be a bit more intense, but when you cook it down like a brisket, it's actually really enjoyable. I'm trying to think of reasons why you would not prefer this over brisket. Why would I rather have a brisket than this? What would make me pay 24 euros for a piece of meat more because it is a brisket, and I can't come up with a single reason why to prefer a brisket over this. As a matter of fact, I can come up with reasons why I choose this over a brisket. You see, this doesn't have a flat, so chances are you're gonna have a more even cook, and therefore probably be more successful with a chuck roll than with a brisket. The flavors are very much identical. It's as soft, it creates the same bark. It's the only thing that I can mention is that it is built up out of multiple muscles, and therefore it might fall apart a little early. A brisket is built out of 2 muscles, and this is built up out of, I think, 4. So that might be the only reason. Otherwise, I would say go for it. Try the chuck roll. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys in the next one.